Fought for an Int-mate beach wedding against everyone's wishes, but now my fiancé sees me as selfish and is reconsidering everything. Every girl has big dreams for her big day, and mine has been only one, an intimate beach wedding. He knew about this since the beginning of our relationship. Ours is a two-states love story. I'm from Maharashtra and he's from Chennai. Few months ago, our families met for deciding the proceedings. Fortunately, they knew about us since a long time and never resisted our relationship. In this meeting, I put forward my desire to have an intimate beach wedding in Chennai and then a reception where we can invite everybody. His parents are nice but they didn't agree to it. They said they will have to invite everybody they know to the wedding as well as reception as he is their only son. I seriously don't understand why Indians keep two grand events to invite the same people. Anyway, because so many people can't be accommodated at a beach wedding, they told me to forget such dreamy ideas. My family was accepting it initially, but that day they flipped as they won't go against my future in-laws' words cause we are ladki wale, girl's side. They told me to silently accept whatever they want and be grateful that at least I'm marrying the guy I want without any resistance from his parents. So how does it matter how the wedding is? I understand that there is some logic to this, but I'm just not being able to drop it. I'm trying to convince my boyfriend every day that let us have an intimate wedding at least, doesn't have to be at the beach, but he is totally siding with his parents. And my parents have decided to agree to everything that they say. So I really don't know what I can do. I'm an introvert and I don't like loud and crowded places. I hate extravagant weddings where they have thousands of guests, most of whom come just as an obligation, but no one seems to care about what I want. I wanted to plan my wedding myself but I have no control over it now. I'm afraid I'm gonna end up hating my own wedding. Many people have offered some great compromises here. Do a pre-wedding photo shoot, or do the reception near the beach where there's a resort or hotel, or, if you want my unnecessary suggestions, just have a beach-themed wedding and go to a country known for clearer and better beaches. Trust me, none of the beaches in India are well maintained. And to people who are offering the my way or highway route to grow up. This isn't some feminist seminar where you all are oppressed. If you can't help someone to be happy then don't be the cause of their sadness. Lamau at all the leave him, red flag comments. Reddit can be so melodramatic. I'm 24F, graduating MBBS soon, not financially independent yet. Recently engaged to 27M, my boyfriend of 3 years, also a doctor. I love him to death. Since I was a teenager, I dreamed of an intimate beach wedding or at least an outdoor wedding in a lawn space. My boyfriend knew this since we started dating and never really had a problem with it. I get a huge ick with hall/mandap weddings. I just don't like closed spaces and they also don't make for good pictures. This wish of mine was communicated to them even before the engagement and they were not happy with it. For context, my family is financially better than his, but that was never an issue. His family was very accepting of me. We come from two different states. First the wedding was planned to be in my city in Maharashtra, but after the engagement, they told my dad that they want to do it in Chennai, because he is their only child. I wasn't very happy with this move as I knew it meant that we will have no say in the wedding. But my dad told me he would try convincing them for an outdoorsy wedding. He tried, but a traditional marriage hall wedding is exactly what his parents want. I even said that we can get a hall but with an adjacent lawn space. I already had to drop my wish of an intimate wedding. But no. They want only a hall, and only the one that's convenient to them and their 1,000 guests. Although weddings are supposed to be from the girl's side, we are doing a Tamil wedding, as they requested, and now they have taken over the entire wedding planning just as I feared and would. Just split the bills with my dad. My dad tried to support me, we can afford better venues, but he backed out now cause we are the girl's side at the end of the day. My fiancé tried convincing his parents too but they are adamant. I am being told you are the girl, you have to adjust. You already got the guy of your choice, now how does it matter where the wedding is? I'm having fights with my fiancé over this now. I said that why should parents have a say in what kind of wedding we want? Or why should marrying the guy I love and having a dream wedding be two mutually exclusive things? In between his parents and me, he is getting torn and everyone's mental health is being ruined. He said he's helpless. Also I shouldn't be so entitled cause it's my dad's money and not mine. I agree but I'm also getting married only once and it'll take me a couple more years to start earning well and we can't wait until then. He told me to keep my dream wedding in my dreams only, and do whatever his parents say. Just get married and then we have our whole lives to do what we want. And I'm just not being able to agree with this. Even if I do, I won't be happy. But now everyone has started calling me selfish, and are questioning my love for him. He is wondering if I can adjust in a middle-class family. I don't know what to do. I won't say his parents are being evil, they are going the traditional South Indian way and doing things like they know how to. Am I the Kamini? I also married the love of my life. I realized since then the wedding day was but a tiny occurrence in our life. Since then we have done so much more together career-wise, personal growth, money, exploring hobbies and interests, multiple businesses. I have not looked at my wedding pictures even once because every day is filled with so much, in a good way. We were among the early group of people to do pre-wedding photo shoots, almost 15 years ago in conservative Chennai, when the trend was literally unheard of. Our pictures become such a hit that so many friends hired our photographer who went on to become a celebrity photographer since then. But We haven't even hung those pictures in our house because we honestly don't even look back much. We have a wall of pictures from our travel. I also realize how every year on our wedding anniversary our parents play the wedding tape and watch the whole thing over and over. We both haven't seen the wedding video even once. Our wedding was talked about with much envy in our extended families because the bride and groom's side has so much fun together. I'm just glad we let our parents do it the way they wanted because it clearly meant more to them than us. Update 1. I was in a really bad headspace last weekend and my mom said some things that added up and I had a few panic attacks. During one of which I called my fiancé at 3 a.m. and told him I don't want to marry you so soon. He handled me very calmly and stopped my panic attack. The next morning too he was very gentle and asked me if I had made any decision and if I need another year to be ready for marriage, he would convince his parents to wait. I said I really don't know, I don't want to take any decisions right now and hung up. The following evening I talked to my dad that I'm having second thoughts about having this wedding so soon. I'm sure about the guy but feel that I'm too young to get married, and because I'm financially dependent on my parents, I'm not having any say in the wedding. So I do not want a wedding like this. At first he got mad, but after a few minutes he was all ears. He understood where I was coming from. My mom apologized for what she said to me. I had calmed down now, and I decided I do want the wedding, but only if I'm heard and my wishes are taken into consideration. Later that day, my dad talked to my Phil about the wedding plans. They gave my father a tentative budget of 60 lakhs for just the wedding in a mandapam in Chennai. This still didn't include our travel costs, gold, clothing, gifts, etc., neither the reception that we would have to throw in our hometown. My dad thought spending 60 liters on a mandapam wedding is crazy but he didn't say anything at that point. He tried to steer the conversation towards alternative venue options of my choice, but my in-laws seemed to be fixated on the mandapam, as I mentioned in my last post too. Also, the wedding date is in December which is monsoon in Chennai so it would have rained all over my dream outdoor wedding anyway. I came to the conclusion that an outdoor wedding is a non-negotiable for me, so we should have the wedding in Maharashtra. And my dad fully supported me. He said that if he's going to spend north of 60 liters for the wedding, at least his daughter should be happy. He finally understood that someone needs to stand up for me. So he did, and now we will have a Tamil-style wedding in my hometown in Maharashtra, in a hotel with lawns, pool and a banquet hall, and all of this within 30 liters. We would definitely have some Marathi traditions as well. I'm feeling so much more relaxed and comfortable knowing the wedding is in my hometown and I would be surrounded by my people. Also now the wedding would be intimate cause only a few people would fly in from Chennai and I've convinced my parents not to invite too many people from our side either. My fiancé is very happy that I'm happy. My in-laws made no issues with changing the city, they were a little bummed that their people won't be able to attend but they agreed readily. Update 2. We locked the hotel. The lawns are actually bigger than in the pictures, with these ridiculous bougainvillea arches that look painted on, and there's a pool that catches the sunset like a mirror. I went there with my dad and my fiancé and tasted food until we were all in food coma. My dad did that thing where he pretends to be stern about budget and then quietly tells the manager to add 2 extra dessert counters because his daughter likes Shrikand. I cried because everyone was being nice to me and the chef mistook it for tears over his malai kofta. Honestly the malai kofta was mid but the filter coffee was so perfect it scared me, so I immediately booked a coffee station with steel tumblers and the man promised to bring his own Devara set. There was a fight about the time. Muhurtam came up exactly how I feared. The astrologer in Chennai opened his notebook and said 4:47 a.m. like he was announcing a death sentence. I don't think he's a bad person but there was a tone like the universe will collapse if I don't get married before sunrise. I tried to be respectful and asked if a little bit later is possible considering we were planning an outdoor setup. He said no, and my mill did that purse lips thing which means she is trying hard not to scold me in front of my dad. I said okay, let's do it. I went home and had a cry. Then I woke up at 2 a.m. with this clarity like a ring in my ear. I called my fiancé and said, I don't mind early, but can we make the tying happen outside, even if we start the homam inside at 4:30? Let the fire and chanting be inside in the banquet and when it's time for the tali, we'll walk out to the lawns as the sky is turning pink. He was half asleep and just said he liked the idea of the sky being our ceiling. I think that's the most romantic sentence he's ever said to me. The next day he called his parents and translated my idea into sensible Tamil and got their buy-in, with the compromise that Nadaswaram will lead us out and the priest will keep the fire alive in a portable havan kunt. I did not know portable havan kuns existed. Apparently they do. Speaking of priests. This is where I did something that I didn't even know I wanted until I wanted it. There's a lady priest in Pune who is trained in both Maharashtrian and Tamil rituals and she conducts weddings, bilingually, explaining the meaning of each mantra while we actually do it. I found her through a senior who DM'd me her number, and we met her in this tiny office that smelled like agarbatti and printer ink. She was wearing a simple cotton sari and a rudrakshmala and spoke to me like I was a person and not a doll to be moved around mandaps. She asked me what mattered to me. I said, I want to understand what I'm promising, I want my mom to put the Monday value on my head, I want to wear a Madasar for the Muhurtam, I want my dad to do Kanyadan without it feeling like he's giving me away like a parcel, and I want my mill to tie the 9-yard sari pleats with me because she asked to do it. The lady priest smiled and said, We can do saptapati with meaning, and we can do kanyadanam with the words emphasizing equality, and we can let both cultures sit next to each other instead of wrestling. My mill was skeptical until this woman switched to perfect Chennai Tamil, and then my mill's face softened in that rare way she reserves for good coffee and devotional songs. My Phil just quietly said, if she explains, our side will feel at home. We booked her on the spot. My fiancé squeezed my hand under the table so hard my fingers cracked. Our male priest from Chennai joined on video the next day, and they divided the work like cardiologists assigning bypass duties. The lady priest would lead, and he would chant certain crucial mantras via mic at Muhurtam time, so his people felt the tali tying was exactly by the book. It felt collaborative. I didn't know rituals could feel that way. The gold drama I was dreading did not happen. My mill sent a picture of their family tali with a tiny Lakshmi coin and asked if I would wear it. I expected to feel ownership panic, but when she said it had been in their puja cupboard for 30 years waiting for their son's marriage, I just cried again. I took the coin to a jeweler here who made a Maharashtrian black bead chain with 2 little wadis and fixed the Tamil tali in the center so both sides of me could sit together on my collarbone. My mother liked it so much she started telling every aunt on earth. We also had a funny hour where my dad wanted to add a little diamond to modernize it, and my fiancé sent him a voice note saying, "Appa, this is not a bike, don't add accessories," and my dad laughed so hard he forgot about diamonds. Close. I went to Kanchipuram for one day because my mill said she wants to be the one to buy me my Muhurtam sari. We took a 6 a.m. flight and I was still wearing Crocs when she was ushering me into a showroom that looked like Temple Run. I have never seen silk like that. There was a peacock green that made my heart beat weird, and a mango yellow that made me think of haldi on my skin, and one purple that was so deep it felt like dusk. She didn't push, she let me choose. I chose a Madisar weave in off-white and vermilion borders because it looked like a wedding in a sari. On the flight back she fell asleep on my shoulder and I felt this quiet gratitude that wasn't dramatic but took up space like breathing. For a woman I had started resenting in my head, I realized she is just a person trying to do right by her son and whatever picture of tradition she has in her head. It was a nice feeling to meet her where she was. Back home I picked a Paithani for the Graha Pravesh, a pastel half-sleeve blouse for Sangeet because I will sweat and there is no point pretending otherwise, and a silly sparkly lehenga for the reception because honestly I just want to sparkle one time in my life without overthinking it. There was a minor meltdown when the blouse guy insisted my arms are not standard and I told him please measure and not shame me. My fiancé came to the shop and stood in the doorway with that doctor face he makes when he tells relatives to stop hovering in an ICU. The man measured me. The blouse fits like a glove. My college almost ruined it. The HOD wasn't going to grant leave because of posting schedules and my partner in my ward had already taken leave for her sister's wedding. I sat in the dean's office and did not cry but my voice shook. My dad called but I told him to wait. Then the professor who taught us community medicine walked by, noticed my face, and came in. I explained the 4:47 a.m. thing like a crazy person and he said, "Okay, we will swap you into rural posting for 2 weeks earlier, you will do night calls, you will earn your holiday, and then you will attend your Muhurtam and not think of patients for 4 days." I went home with a schedule handwritten like a school timetable and this ridiculous pride in my chest because I bargained for my own life, without anyone bargaining for me. We have kept the guest list under 280. I know that sounds like hypocrisy after my rant about intimate weddings, but if you've ever seen an Indian guest list it's basically a hydra. We cut off +1s for cousins unless they are married and gave the hotel manager my dad's number for any random my chacha from Nashik is in the lobby moments. We also had one huge argument about seafood. Because Maharashtra, the boys on my side were like, at least fish fry at reception. I felt caught because his side is strictly vegetarian. I solved it by placing a non-veg dinner 2 nights later at my uncle's farmhouse as a post-wedding hangout for my side, adults only, so the wedding stays vegetarian and no one feels disrespected. My mill almost hugged me for that one. I settled the photography without asking. I told my fiancé I'm booking a duo who shoot candid and also do a proper album for parents to show neighbors. He said book who you want and then transferred his savings from his bike fund to the photographer as an advance without telling me. When I confronted him he just shrugged and said he was stupid when he said it's your dad's money, and that this is our wedding and he wants to pay for something that will make me happy. He said those exact words and I got that same weird ring in my ears. He added, also, I will ride anything, even a second-hand scooter, I will not ride a guilt trip into marriage. It was the best line of our engagement. He still wants a bike later. I told him we'll buy him one with our bonus from a future job, and we pinky promise like we are 12. The Chennai family is flying in a day earlier for a Nailangu in the evening. We decided to do a combined haldi Nailangu near the pool under fairy lights. My mill wanted it inside because of evil eye but the lady priest said a little turmeric and laughter outside under sun is pure enough. We played games with rice and lemons, and my Masi stole my fiancé's slippers and demanded money like an extortionist with bangles. His father, who I have never seen anything beyond composed, laughed until he was wheezing. My dad gave my Phil a white topi and forced him to eat puran poli with ghee and he said I owed twice and then asked for more. The hotel DJ tried to play a Punjabi remix at 7 p.m. and my cousin switched it off and gave him a Tamil playlist with Kutu songs. My fiancé danced for 5 minutes without shame and it felt like watching him as a teenager. I won't forget that. We had our first proper storm in the middle of all this. Not literal rain. Two of his aunts called my mill and scolded her for letting her son marry in the girls' city and for wasting money on lawns because what if someone trips on the grass during Kanyatanam? She cried quietly. She thought no one saw. I took the phone, spoke to those aunts in my best respectful Hindi Tamil mush and told them we would send the entire ceremony livestream link to every relative with a high-quality microphone so they can hear each mantra better than if they were there. They calmed down because they could tell their friends they were watching on TV. I sent them little brass bells in a courier with a note asking them to ring it at the moment of tying the tali, at their own home. It's so cheesy it almost embarrassed me to write it here, but they sent a voice note the next day of the bells ringing. It made my mill cry again, but this time the nice way. Chennai grandparents cannot travel. My Phil took a small team to their house the week before and did a simple puja with our photos, and we got their blessing on video. His potty said my name in Tamil and mispronounced it adorably. We framed that screenshot. We also couriered them a small brass tali, and my fiancé put it on them like a garland through the screen. It was weird and tender and very 2024. A ridiculous thing happened with the cake. I didn't want one at the wedding, but my best friend ordered a tiny one with a beach on it because she is obsessed with hinting. It arrived at my house the day before and my dog licked the top clean when we weren't looking. We sliced it anyway and everyone laughed. My fiancé said this is a sign that all sweet things are being tasted and approved. Please don't ask me why that line made me want to kiss him in front of my parents. I did not. I have some shame left. The actual wedding morning felt like being underwater. The makeup girl arrived at 2 a.m. and started with skincare like we were in a spa. I put on the Madasur with my mill's help, and when she tucked the last pleat into my waist I felt anchored. Nadaswaram started at exactly 4:30, the priest lit the fire, the room smelled like ghee and sandalwood, and the lady priest narrated what we're doing like a calm radio host. At 5:10 my dad trembled while he poured water on my hand and his tears fell into our palms, and I thought, if all this theater is just an excuse for this handover of softness, then I will call it good theater. At 5:40 the sky outside was gunmetal. We walked in a procession through the hotel corridor with flowers hanging like chandeliers and the Nadaswaram boys leading us like they were calling the sun. When we stepped onto the lawn it was pale blue. My cousins held the jasmine strings above my head like a canopy. The lady priest whispered, "Now," and the other priest chanted, and my fiancé tied the tali on my neck with his fingers shaking like the first time he held a syringe. My mother put the Monday value on my forehead and kissed me and whispered "Ja" like I was leaving for school. The birds made their stupid bird sounds and it sounded like applause. It was not my beach. But the grass was wet with dew and my bare feet were cool and I could see the sky, and that was enough. It was more than enough. The Saptapadi was in Marathi and Sanskrit, translated in Tamil in my ear by my mill between steps. I laughed in the middle of the seventh step because my fiancé tripped slightly on a marigold and swore under his breath, and the lady priest said, "You just promised patience, don't break it immediately," and the whole mandap chuckled. When we did the stone step, the lady priest said, "This is you pledging to be strong," and she did not call me fragile. I noticed that. After, we sat down and ate on banana leaves with our hands, and my Phil kept folding my leaf too early and my dad kept adding more curry to it, and I realized this is exactly what I wanted when I said intimate. People touching your food because they love you. No caterer can plan that. We finished by 8:30. The sun was now a proper circle. We took exactly 10 staged photos and then the photographer shooed everyone away and shot us candidly with a bougainvillea. Then my fiancé did a thing. He told me to change into a simple cotton sari and take off some jewelry because he has a surprise. I thought it was a room full of flowers and I was going to be annoyed. He put me in a car and we drove for an hour to a small creek outside the city where the river widens and touches a sandy patch. He had asked the photographer to follow quietly. He hadn't told our parents so that no one could stop it. The beach is an exaggeration. It's a river, but the sand was real and the water lapped in tiny waves, and he had packed a thermos of filter coffee and 2 steel tumblers, and a small string of jasmine that he bought at a signal and put in my hair himself in a very crooked way. He took out a folded paper from his pocket and read me 5 sentences he had written. No poems, no cliches. Just, "Thank you for fighting for us without fighting with me, thank you for insisting on outside, thank you for wearing the Madasur even though you hate tight pleats, thank you for saying no nicely to 10 people this month, thank you for saying yes to me 3 years ago." Then he said, "Okay, now say yours," and I said, "I didn't write anything," and he said, "Good, I like you unplanned." So I just told him, "I forgive you for the money comment forever, I trust you with my panic, and I will build a home with you even if the first version is a tiny room with no balcony." We stood with our feet in that cold water and the photographer took 2 pictures and left us alone. It wasn't a wedding. It was better than a pre-wedding. It was our tiny copy of my ridiculous dream, folded to fit our life. We came back and did the Marathi Grahapravesh. My mill looked at the rice that spilled and pretended to calculate our fortunes and then hugged me. She put her hand on my head and said something I didn't catch because my ears were ringing again. It's either love or dehydration. My dad paid the hotel and then announced we came under 32 lakhs all inclusive and then nudged me and said, "See, what will you do with the 28 lakhs we didn't spend?" I said, "First you take your money back for the coffee, it was your insistence." He laughed. We opened a joint RD for the down payment we don't even have a timeline for yet. It felt too adult. Then we ate leftover puran-poli in our room like thieves. I slept the sleep of someone who was held up in the air by 10 pairs of hands at once. I keep thinking of how many places this could have broken. It didn't. It bent towards us. People made room. We made room. I got my sky, and the sound the Nadaswaram made when the sun came up was almost like waves. Almost. Enough. Update 3. Chennai felt like someone had turned the volume knob of life to the right and then walked away. The reception hall his parents chose was the kind that has its own weather. Velvet carpet, chandeliers pretending to be constellations, 6 different rice items lined up like a family portrait. I had a strand of jasmine in my hair because I am a cliché and also because the smell makes my brain stop catastrophizing for 5 whole seconds at a time. My sari was that peacock green from Kanchipuram that almost gave me palpitations the first time I saw it. I wore it because this night was theirs and I wanted to shine the way they imagined, at least on the outside. Inside I had secretly stuffed a pair of flats under the stage. The line of guests started like a polite trickle and then became a pilgrimage. Hands, cheeks, nods, someone's toddler with a banana touching my blouse and leaving a perfect crescent moon. There were 100 variations of the same sentence. You look slim, you look fair, you look like a Lakshmi, when will you do post-graduation, do you cook rasam, when are you giving good news? I learned to say thank you and to squeeze his hand every time the when are you question arrived so we both remembered to breathe. At one point a cousin's wife hugged me and whispered, I watched the live stream, your lawn looked like cinema. I wanted to put her in my pocket. It was going too smoothly, which is why of course the universe put a human being in front of me and asked, okay, doctor, now what? An older uncle from their side, one of those men with a kind face and a shirt pocket full of pens, was halfway up the steps to the stage when he swayed and sat down abruptly on the carpet. He didn't faint, he went out like a light switch. Someone yelled his name, someone else shouted for water, and in that weird way my body knows what to do before my brain does, I was on my knees, silk pleats protesting, hand on his carotid, counting. Thready, slow. Cold sweat. The ant behind him said Sakurai in a voice that had fear in all its vowels, and my fiancé was already telling someone to call an ambulance, to get sugar, to get room, to stop crowding. People make that ring around emergencies that look like respect but are actually panic. I told my mommy to loosen his belt, I asked for his bag, I found a strip of glimepiride. Diabetic. He hadn't eaten properly because he was watching weight and also line is long. Of course. The caterer's boy appeared with a steel tumbler and 5 sachets of sugar like a magician. We rubbed paste along his gums and kept his head turned because he gagged a little. His eyelids fluttered. I kept talking, I don't know why I kept saying mama, open your eyes, mama, like I had known him forever. He did open them, slow, like the ceiling was something he had to negotiate with. My fiancé checked his blood sugar with a glucometer someone pulled from a relative's purse like it was a lipstick. 41. Not dramatic trauma, not a cinematic CPR. Just a body that needed sweetness and 2 people in silk who turned into their scrubs inside their heads for 10 minutes. Later the ambulance came and took him because we insisted, and his wife tried to touch my feet and I panicked and grabbed her hands and made us both stand up like we were trying to find our balance on the same seesaw. My Mill's eyes were wet and proud in a way I have never seen on her face. Someone joked that we saved a life in Kanchipuram and my fiancé told me in Tamil that I looked like a warrior and I told him to shut up because I could feel my tali bouncing with my heart and I was afraid of crying makeup off and ruining the photographs our parents will watch on loop till the end of time. The rest of the night aunts fed me like I was recovering from something and uncles called me Dr. Ma with an extra ma. A very old grandmother pinched my cheek hard and told me in a whisper that a woman who knows what to do with sugar will keep house correct. It took all my medical school not to explain insulin. I let her keep her version. The other battle that night looked small from outside but felt big inside my chest. The name. There was a board on the stage with our names in gold letters, hanging like a prophecy. It had my name with his surname at the end, decided by a printer and a default, not by me. I stood and stared at that for a stupidly long time for someone who had just dealt with a patient. I practiced my signature on scraps of paper more than I care to admit. My hospital ID, my degree certificate, my license. It is the name that stood in 4 AMS with me before exams. He came and stood next to me and didn't say anything for a full minute, which is his best skill. I told him, I want to keep my name as it is for work. For life, I don't mind being called both. I don't mind initials and pet names and ridiculous family nicknames, but I don't want to erase anything on official paper. He said, then don't. He said it simply, like that's how this is done. My Mill was behind us and heard and did that quick calculation with her eyebrows that mothers do. I thought she would say community, relatives, so many things. She said, keep the old in your work, keep the new when you come home. In Tamil it sounded softer, like water. She told the stage man to tilt the board so the light didn't hit the surname so hard. It was such a small move it made me stupidly emotional. Later that week, at the registrar's office where the fan made a sound like a helicopter learning to fly, I signed with my name as I know it. The officer asked if I wanted to add his surname and I said not on this, and he shrugged and stamped and I felt something old and something new braid without snapping. The morning after the reception, he took me to the beach without telling anyone. Besant Nagar was awake in that gentle way where the hawkers are boiling tea and the waves look like someone ironing a giant blue sheet. The air smelled like salt and diesel and frying. He bought me beach sandal from a woman with bangles up to her elbows and I ate it with my wedding bangles still jingling and a little sand between my teeth. We took our chapels off and let the water come to our ankles. The bay has this way of making your head quieter. He used his toe to draw a lopsided heart and I rolled my eyes and then drew a stethoscope that looked like a pretzel. A stray dog stole my jasmine and pranced away like he'd won an Olympic medal. A group of teenagers played cricket and their ball rolled to us and I threw it back and one of them shouted, "Thank you, Akka." Like he meant it for life, not just for the ball. We didn't talk about vows. We talked about who would take the 6:05 train next month and how many night duties I have and whether we can afford the scooter he keeps looking at on OLX. He told me he had named the scooter Thar as a joke and I told him I refused to be seen on a two-wheeler called SUV. We agreed on Kadal because the C was right there blessing the decision. We will buy it second-hand with the money he didn't spend on a bike before the wedding and with a little help from my dad who pretends not to like two-wheelers and then checks the mileage more religiously than he checks his cholesterol. The first week back I learned that marriage sometimes looks like WhatsApp calls from a hospital corridor because my internship posted me in casualty. It looks like hearing his voice in my ear on a choppy network while a patient's relative screams in mine and I'm trying to fill case sheets and he's telling me to breathe between writing lines. It looks like him sending me a photo of his breakfast every morning for no reason except to prove he ate, and me sending him a photo of my shoes every night to show I sat down somewhere at some point. It looks like my mill calling at 9 p.m. and saying, "I made rasam, I will send," and then actually sending it with a note that says heat till tiny bubbles, don't boil. I cried because of instruction level affection. He came to my city on a weekend we both had carved out of stone and it felt like dating but our toothbrushes stood in the same cup. We hunted for a one-room place to rent near my hospital that didn't smell like wet socks. We found a square of light with a balcony so small it could fit exactly 2 chairs if we were affectionate. The landlord asked if we were proper married with that look like we might be running a den of sin. I showed him a wedding photo on my phone and he said, "Ah, now okay," and offered to get the walls painted Asian paints love shade. We said white, please. We bought a second-hand pressure cooker that squeals like a drama queen and a steel Tavares set because if there's one thing I know about adulthood it's that coffee tastes different in steel. My mother sent a Tupperware full of masala labeled like a pharmacy and my mill came on a video call and taught me to work the coffee filter without making it taste like mud. I learned. I also learned that poa is not in his DNA but he ate it and said texture like a judge on a cooking show. Somewhere in the middle of all this a stranger and an outpatient called me sister 3 times and finally I said, not taking offense, only correcting, doctor, and the room did that tiny shift where some people will hate you and some will say finally. A colleague later told me I was too sharp, that patients are delicate and I said, okay, but so am I that night. When my mill asked me how my day was, I told her this whole story expecting the lecture and she said, I'm happy you corrected, next time also correct. There was no next line about arrogance. It settled something I could not explain even to myself. We went back to Chennai again because they wanted to feed the paternal side and after reception lunch for those who missed the night. This time the hall's AC decided to go on strike for an hour and we all glowed like marigolds. A cousin set up 2 standing fans at the edge of our stage and we looked like our own music video. The Nadaswaram boys kept playing anyway, like the air itself was their responsibility. The uncle we saved sent us a box of Mysore pack that made my dentist's soul cry and a note written in engineer handwriting that said, thanks for sugar. I kept it in my medical book. At some point in the Chennai trip, 2 of those aunts, the very same ones who had scolded my mill for giving away the wedding city, took me aside, held my hand, and apologized without saying the word sorry. They told me the live stream was clearer than any Mandap speaker and that they rang the little brass bells I had sent embarrassingly hard at the tying moment and their neighbor came to ask what function. Then one of them asked the baby question with soft eyes and I said, now our baby is neat score, can you please send us your blessings after that for anything else? She laughed like a girl and told me to eat more ghee. I said, deal, and ate 3 spoonfuls of ghee on my rice like a criminal. We registered the marriage under a fan that cackled and a calendar that still thought it was 2022. My signature looked like the one I had practiced. He signed like he was signing for a pizza delivery. The clerk asked me to put Sindor so the photo looked complete and I smiled and said, sir, we are Tamil Maharashtrian, our completeness is very crowdsourced. He laughed and took the picture anyway. When the stamp thudded the table, I had that ring in my ear again, the one that means pay attention, your life is changing, even if you're wearing chapels. On our last evening in Chennai, my Phil took us to his childhood neighborhood where the streets are so narrow you measure time by the way people move aside for each other. He pointed out a Paul ice cart and insisted we eat. My mill stood at a temple door and asked the deity for whatever mothers ask, and she pulled me into the inner sanctum with her with a grip like a sentence, not a question. The priest put kumkum on my head and I closed my eyes and saw the lawn in my city, the river sand we found, the steel tumbler in our sink at home, the scooter we will buy, the RD we started for a house without knowing where that house will be. All these images look like one thing to me for the first time, not a compromise, not a patchwork, just a life that is ours. We slept that night at his parents' house on a mattress that used to be his teenage bed. He snored like a quiet old man and when I nudged him he said sorry, Filter coffee like he was apologizing on behalf of caffeine. In the morning his potty called and blessed us and mispronounced my name again, and I decided not to correct it ever. He took me back to the beach one more time, not because I needed to check the dream off a list, but because it had become our reset button. A boy was selling kites and he tied a string around my wrist and said, "Aka, wind is good." We let it pull and it did, and the thin paper fought the air and made that tiny flapping sound that I know will one day remind me of our first year of marriage more than any mandapum. It was silly and perfect and small. At home I hung exactly one picture. Not of the wedding. Not even of us. It's the screenshot of his grandmother saying my name wrong with her cheeks puffed. The wedding album is with our parents and they deserve it. We have a wall of our future waiting. We will fill it with coffee stains and exam schedules and scooter keys and maybe one day a balcony bigger than 2 chairs. We will put the sea in our mornings when we can't go to it, with a little salt in our sambar and a cruel amount of sunlight on our floor. And the sound of the Nataswaram the morning I became his wife has somehow migrated in my head to the way the city wakes up. Not exactly waves. But most days, when I'm honest, close enough.